Good day and welcome to Focus On with me, Dewald Rademeyer. The Air Traffic and Navigation Services, or ATNS, provides air traffic navigation training and associated services within South Africa. One of the many strategic objectives of ATNS is to ensure and improve on flight safety and provide air traffic management solutions. But what exactly does that mean? And what does it all entail? Joining me is Whitney Stone, Air Traffic Controller at Johannesburg Towers, to answer this and more. Whitney, welcome.
Thank you, Dewald.
I want to start off on that. What is or are the duties of an air traffic controller?
So ATNS provides air traffic control at almost every airport in South Africa, and we have different functions. So you have a tower function, you have an approach function, and you have an area function, to name a few. So tower is when you're on the airfield and you're sitting in the plane and we push back and you go on the runway and you take off, that's tower. So we provide everything close to the airport and on the airport. Then you get approach, which is as soon as the guys get airborne, then they're the guys that climb you out to your level, and then the guys that put everyone on final approach. So when you look at the airport, everyone's stacked up on final. That's the approach function. Then you get area control, which is the bigger airspace, and they are the guys that neighbor all of our airspaces. So we neighbor Harare, Maputo, Mtsapa, Mozambique, all those sort of places. Mozambique and Maputo is the same, but yeah, so all of those sort of places. So then they then get you to your final cruising level, and then when the guys come in from overseas, then they get you down to a certain flight level that gives you to approach to put you into the sequence to be vectored.
What are the requirements to become an air traffic controller?
So you have to be 18 years or older, you have to be a South African citizen, you have to be medically fit, so you will be going through a medical process to see that you do tick the boxes that ATNS required, and you have to have English and Maths level 4 and up.
Now, I'm to understand that ATNS is celebrating 30 years. Just speak to me about the transformation process.
Okay, so ATNS has achieved unparalleled representation in the underprivileged areas, and we're also quite big on gender equality. So there's a big drive to promote women in aviation and people with disadvantages. So we do bursaries, we do internships, we do mentorship programs largely for the women to try and boost up into aviation to get, because it was always a male-dominated environment, and it's now, I'm just talking about in the tower where I work, there's a lot of females that work there, so you can actually see it's working, and there are a lot of females that are joining, a lot of people with disabilities. So yeah, they go to the schools in underprivileged areas to try and promote. No one really knew about air traffic control when I started it. Everyone was like, what is this air traffic control you talk of? So yeah, so ATNS has done a lot of work to go to schools in privileged or underprivileged areas. And yeah, so it's working. You can see all the programs coming to fruition now, and they keep going with driving all of these in the underprivileged areas.
What are you doing in terms of youth programs? And also, I understand you said you go to the schools, but what else are you doing to create career awareness as well to help increase youth employment?
So there are projects in the 9 provinces, and it's a SMME NTSU Aviation Solutions. So they train unemployed youth from the underprivileged areas in all the 9 provinces, and there's specific intakes that deal with the underprivileged groups, and there's an intake that started now in July and it ended not so long ago. So yeah, so they do that, and then within the youth in the schools, they also have programs to fund to do, like the one is to give seeds and all that sort of stuff, so that the schools can become more self-sufficient when it comes to food and all that sort of this, to teach them skills like that. Yeah, so they are quite involved in the communities and the schools in these underprivileged areas in the 9 provinces in South Africa.
And we are in Transport Month.
Yes.
What's your plans?
So Transport Month, so mainly with ATC Day in Transport Month, so all around the world, every single country and state will do something for ATC Month. Yeah, every ANSP, so Air Navigation Service Provider, will do something special for their colleagues. And yeah, they just basically try and say to the controllers, we see you, we hear you, and we do appreciate you, and they all try and do something for us.
What are some of the challenges that you've experienced as an air traffic controller?
So some of the challenges, so pre-COVID, we had, obviously the airport was really busy and all the airlines were there, and then COVID happened, and we all know aviation took quite a knock in COVID. And then we combined a whole bunch of our sectors, and now we're growing again, and the airlines are growing, and our airspace is as busy as ever, actually. And so we also now, we staff is a thing. We need to get, that's why I think ATNS is driving these programs so hard in these areas, which is so important, because we need more staff. And like I said earlier, people don't really know about ATC. And so we need to get more staff. We need to man the stations that are important to us. So our current challenge now is just to get staff to bump it up, to get to the numbers that we needed to get to, or to be before COVID with these busy airspaces. And I mean, look at all the airlines, they're growing exponentially, which is amazing for our sector. So if we can just keep our staff and get our staff levels growing and find all these people that are keen and avid and interested in aviation, I think that'll be amazing for ATNS, and we can just go from strength to strength.
What's the training process like for youth starting off and obviously working their way up? What does that training schedule look like?
So ATNS offer a bursarship program, which is when you come straight out of school, which is how I started. So when you go to Joburg Tower and you look to the left of, there's an academy there. And when I started, it was a 3-month course. I believe it's a 6-month course now. And then you do all sort of aviation-related subjects. So there's MET, which is meteorology. There's flight planning. There's aviation law. So it's all intertwined with what we do every single day. So it's not like your varsity programs. And then so you go through that, and it's quite an intense thing. You write, I think it's 14 exams, I think it is. And then you go into the field, so they can send you to any station that ATNS have, and then you go and get a bit of work experience, and you go into the station and you see what we do. Then you come back 2 weeks later for a rating course, which you go into our simulators, and then you go to be, it's called an ATSO, Air Traffic Service Assistance Rating, and then you do strips and you do coordination, and that's also in the simulators for a month, and you need to pass that. And then you go on to another workstation where you go and you become an air traffic service assistant. And then you go into the queue to either become a tower controller, an approach controller, or an area controller. However long that takes, everyone walks a different path with us, so everyone has a different timeline. So my timeline, I was in Johannesburg for 2.5 years, then I became a tower controller, and I went to Polokwane for 2 years. And then you just work there, and then you go into the queue to where you want to go next. I was in Polokwane for 2 years, and then I went on to Johannesburg Tower, and I've been there now for 10 years. But you can also go from Joburg, or you can go from a tower controller, you can go to approach, you can go to do area, and then so the only area stations we have are Joburg and Cape Town. And then almost every single bigger station, like the PE, East London, Georges, they have a approach sector, and then almost all the airports in South Africa have a tower station. So towers, there's more towers than in the other 2 sectors.
How stressful is this job?
I always get asked this question, and I think everyone has a different answer. I think how you manage your stress is a personal thing. We always have this thing within the company, where is tower more stressful, is approach more stressful, area, and we all like to think we work a more stressful job. But yeah, I think every sector's got its challenges, and coming up now is summer, and if you look into the sky and you see thunderstorms, you know all the air traffic controllers are working really hard. Because generally how it works, you have defined routes, but when there's storms and the storm is on the route, then everyone has to go around it and above it and below it, and it's just, you have to work hard that day. So I would say when you see storms, think of the air traffic controllers and say, oh, shame guys, sorry. And yeah, that becomes quite stressful when there's emergencies. That becomes, when there's, I don't know if you saw a while ago, there was a plane that landed in Cape Town, and he lost a whole bunch of hydraulic oil and fuel on the runway, and the runway was closed, and everyone had to divert and land on other runways. So things like that, when there's abnormal situations, I think that can become quite stressful. But day-to-day job, we train professionals. That's what we do every single day. It's our job. It's our passion.
So clear blue sky, yes.
Good day.
Good day for you.
Bad day is when there's other stuff going on.
How can one apply?
So you would have to go onto the ATNS website, and then you'd have to apply for the bursarship program. That's the only way to get in with ATNS. You have to go through their whole course. That's so they have way. They run, I don't know how many they run a year, but it's only through their bursarship program, through ATNS's training academy, that you can apply for it.
Great. Again, glad to know you're looking after us.
With
a little delays in between, but really appreciate the safety in that.
Thank you for taking the time.
I want to thank my guest, Whitney Stone, Air Traffic Controller at the Johannesburg Tower, for bringing more clarity on the importance of the role played by air traffic controllers. That brings us to the end of this Focus On, and until next time, It's goodbye.